Namaskar and welcome to StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonkar. The agenda for today's discussion is connected to international relations. Under the domain of international relations, we are going to discuss about the idea of soft power. In this video lecture, we will assess India's soft power projection or India's cultural diplomacy. Why are we having this discussion? Because recently, the External Affairs Committee has submitted a report about actions taken by the government to improve its soft power projection. So our discussion is connected with two reports of the Parliamentary Panel on External Affairs, where we will understand completely regarding India's soft power, what are issues with India's soft power, and what the government is doing to enhance our soft power. That is the complete agenda of our discussion. To get to know all this information, stay with me till the very end. Let us begin. But before that, there is a small notice for all the UPSC civil services aspirants. If you have missed out the July train, you do know that the evening batch, evening P2I batch, it is closed out on July 31st. On demand, we are starting another batch which would be in the morning 8 a.m. It is starting from 11th August. It's P2I again, prelims to interview, where we will be hand holding you through all the three stages. If you clear your preliminary examination 2024, you would be called to mains residential program. With StudyIQ faculties, with mentors, you would be improving your answer writing. We have also mock interviews planned for you. A complete package at a very affordable price. And if you want maximum discount, do use my code Rahul Live when you check out. So do it now. I'll see you in the class. Right, let's get back to our discussion about soft power. And I told you, why are we having this discussion? Because recently, the Parliamentary Panel on External Affairs, or the External Affairs Committee in short, which is headed by Shri P.P. Chaudhary, they have submitted a report regarding the action taken by the government. Now, even before this, in December 2022, the same panel had submitted a report regarding the issues with India's soft power. And we'll talk about that as well, because we need to understand the issues. So this discussion is about two reports. In the first report, they highlighted the issues, they gave certain recommendations. And now the government has responded. What have they done? We'll understand the governmental steps as well. So we'll understand in a comprehensive way regarding India's soft power projection. Now, before we head into the details of this report, let's first understand the idea of soft power. Now, what exactly is a soft power? It is a relatively new concept. It has been given by a political analyst from USA, Joseph Nye Jr. To understand soft power, we have to compare that first with hard power. Now, hard power is easy to understand. Hard power has been quite traditional. The idea of hard power can also be seen in Kautilya's Arthashastra. Hard power means your muscle power or the power of your military, power of your arms and ammunition. Along with it, it also includes power of your money. So hard power is the power of coercion, meaning if one party wants another party to do certain thing, how can they make or how can they subjugate another entity to its will? One is by using force, by using money. That is the meaning of hard power. Now, if you talk about United States of America, you do understand USA has a lot of hard power. It has a huge military. It has a lot of R&D into their defense industry. They produce a lot of defense arms and ammunition. They also have economic power. They have economic might. The classic example of that being imposing economic sanctions on others. If the other party is not willing to listen to US, then USA, we impose economic sanctions. Economic sanctions is a threat. So hard power is a power of that threat, power of coercion, power or getting other person to act according to your will by force. Hard power. Exactly opposite of that is soft power. Soft power is the power of attraction, where you influence the behavior of others by your power of attraction. You try to attract them. And according to Joseph Nye, for any nation, the soft power basically depends on three dimensions or three parameters. It depends first on its political values. Of course, yes. For instance, in 21st century, we can talk about the political values which are quite attractive. Say the idea of democracy. If a democracy wants to have trade with another democracy, using the idea of democracy, we can progress our relations, right? So democracy, human rights, rule of law, these are some of the values which are quite attractive. The second aspect is the foreign policy. Now, what kind of foreign policy one country runs is also, it also defines its soft power. If it is an open foreign policy, then it would be more attractive for others. if it is a close foreign policy. Say for instance, North Korea. I don't think North Korea has any sort of soft power because of its foreign policy perspective. In fact, I can say North Korea does not have any kind of soft power, right, as of now. The third aspect is culture. This is very important. That is why many a times when we use the term soft power, we also use an analogous term called as cultural diplomacy as well, right? So these are three important parameters or dimensions which Joseph S. Nye Jr. defines. But you do understand that be it hard power or soft power, they have its own limitations. All right. Many people criticize that soft power cannot get you what you want, and similar thing can be argued with hard power as well. But there is one utility of soft power. It is rather cheaper compared to hard power. Simple example. Say if I want to develop my hard power, I have to build my military might. I have to build arms and ammunition. I have to develop those. I have to put money into R&D. For economic power also, I have to impose economic sanctions. It might lead to adverse impact on me as well, but I'm willing to incur that loss. So hard power is rather costlier. Soft power is comparatively easy because it is power of attraction. It is basically the power, or I would say the way of life of a nation, that defines its soft power, right? So it is rather cheaper. But political analysts, security experts, they do suggest that only soft power cannot help a nation, and only hard power or excessive use of hard power, that will also not help. Classic example being United States of America. Using excessive power in say many states in Middle East, it has made it rather unattractive. So that's why Joseph S. Nye Jr. himself, he came up with the idea of smart power. Smart power is an adequate mixture of hard power and soft power, right? So these days we talk about soft power that use a mixture of both. I hope by this you have already gotten the idea what is this soft power. Now let's talk about India's soft power. What is India's soft power? Now India's soft power, it lies, I would say, in its diversity. It lies in its culture, its language, its colors, its costumes, its festivals, its religion, food, tradition, so many things. When we talk about India's soft power, yoga is one of the dimensions which enhances India's soft power. India's history, India's culture, its traditions, India and non-violence because of Mahatma Gandhi. In fact, I would say Mahatma Gandhi or Gandhian philosophy itself is one of the means of soft power. We have Bollywood, we have music, we have different cuisines. We say India has unity in diversity. That diversity itself is one of the tenets of our soft power. But from the report perspective, what do they highlight? See, India has some determinants or some instruments of soft power. We use instruments like culture. The Ministry of Culture has many programs, different cultural agreements with different countries. We have our diaspora. Indian diaspora is spread across so many countries, and Indian diaspora itself is a very important factor or instrument for our soft power. We have tourism, we have democracy, yoga. This is a prominent determinant of our soft power, especially I would say in the last 7-10 years, right? So since the time yoga day has become very prominent, so International Yoga Day has come. Yoga has become a very important tenet for our soft power diplomacy. Ayurveda, our sports, youth exchange, the media, cinema. I told you about Bollywood, I told you about music. There are so many dimensions to it. Now, for any country, if they want to develop some sort of foreign policy where they want to use soft power or cultural diplomacy, there would be some intention for it. Now, in general, Indian foreign policy, Indian soft power, what do they focus on? Of course, they want to focus on, first of all, our own national interest. What is our national interest? To safeguard our sovereignty and integrity. Soft power diplomacy or soft power is important for this. Apart from that, the ministry itself says the second reason to promote India's soft power diplomacy is its neighborhood first, because we want good relations with our neighbors and then ultimately with other nations as well, because India's foreign policy is surrounded, or I would say the cynosure of India's foreign policy is this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And for this, soft power projection is extremely needed. And that's why we are working on these instruments to promote these interests. Now, so what are the issues? I want to understand the issues. The parliamentary panel, it has highlighted 4 major issues. So that these 4 major issues, I would appreciate if you remember and use them in your answers. 4 major issues. First is, of course, connected to money. It is said that India's soft power diplomacy measures or funding towards that, budgetary allocation towards that is relatively lower. Now, for India, I would say the important ministry or department is the Ministry of Culture, which has to promote India's culture, not just in India, but abroad as well. If you look at the funding aspect, if we compare India and China, China roughly spends about 10,000 crore every year on their soft power projection. In fact, they have a department, specifically United Work Department, whose budget is more than $2.6 billion. That means around, say, 17,000 crore for the United Work Department itself. When you talk about India's funding of the ICCR, that is Indian Center for Cultural Relations, Ministry of Culture, put together, it would be somewhere around 300 to 400 crores. That means the budgetary allocation is very, very low. And if you do not have budget, how can you project your soft power? One issue. Another issue is lack of coordination and consultation among different stakeholders. See, when we talk about soft power and we want to project our culture, because we talk about cultural diplomacy, there are multiple players involved. There is Ministry of External Affairs, there is Ministry of Culture, there is Ministry of Sport, Youth Exchange. Different ministries, different departments are involved, and very seldom we find there is better coordination among these. And because of that, we lose many opportunities to project our own soft power. Another major issue is shortage of skilled and motivated workforce here. Now, this has been highlighted by many experts. There are so many experts who highlight that the number of IFS officers, Indian Foreign Service officers, are very low in comparison to other countries. See, China has invested heavily on their manpower. They have a lot of workforce in South America. They have a lot of workforce in Northern America, in areas where India is lacking. There are many people who highlight that some aspects of Indian foreign policy have been successful. Say, for example, Southeast Asia. But if you look at the number of officers who are working in the South Asian region, you will find it very, very low. There are many officers who are working in Europe, right? So this has been highlighted in multiple reports as well. We have shortage of skilled workforce, and ultimately there is a lack of clear-cut policy. There is a lack of clarity about what is the mandate of ICCR, that is Indian Center for Cultural Relations under the Ministry of Culture, and a broad policy or direction is missing. These are the four things that have been highlighted. Apart from this, in the report in December 2022, they highlighted or they gave recommendation regarding so many things. They said that India needs to come up with a policy to project its smart power. So one of the recommendations was that the Ministry of External Affairs should capitalize on multilateral diplomacy, track 2, track 3, all these diplomacies, they have to capitalize on it. Apart from that, we need to understand our own soft power and let's see what others are doing. See, international best practices, they have to be studied and we can inculcate them, of course, not exactly copy paste, but according to our needs. Apart from this, it was also suggested there is an urgent need to overhaul the complete structure of ICCR. Complete overhaul, right? Some other recommendations had come where the committee recommended a coordination committee must be set up with different stakeholders, representatives from MEA, representatives from the Cultural Ministry, from the Sports Ministry, from the diaspora, from people, from tourist departments. So many representatives can be put into coordination committee so that better coordination convergence can be seen. Apart from this, it was also recommended that government should increase the budgetary allocation. Ministry should also appoint a study group to understand what the other countries are doing. For example, the British Council from UK, the Confucius Institutes are there. There is Goethe Institutes from Germany. There is American Center. There are so many different institutes like Alliance Francaise is there. So what exactly other countries are doing which we are lacking? Try to study it. Along with it, improve coordination, better communication has to be done. A cultural mapping exercise was also recommended, and also ministry should facilitate more and more Ayush centers overseas to project Ayurveda, yoga, etc. Along with it, there was one more recommendation which was highlighted, or I would say one more lacune which was highlighted, that we do not have any particular center, ICCR center in the Gulf region. And you do know we have important partners in the Gulf region. This was highlighted. And recently, the ministry replied back. What was the reply of ministry on adequate funding? A very bureaucratic reply did come. The ministry deeply appreciates the inputs from the committee, and we will carry out that. We'll provide adequate budget, which has not been done. Let's wait and watch what happens in the next budget. On matter of creating coordination committee, it has already been suggested that MEA is already working very closely with the Ayush ministry, with the sports ministry, with the education ministry, with the cultural ministry. And again, coordination committee itself has not been set up, but they are working very closely to build convergence and coordination among different departments. Apart from that, there has been no cultural center in the Gulf. This was highlighted by the External Affairs Committee. On that, this input has been noted, and the government is working now on bringing a center in UAE. It has not happened yet, but it will happen very soon. But on many other recommendations, on many other inputs, the government has replied that we have done so many other things. For instance, government has worked on promoting International Yoga Day, June 21. Recently, a couple of months back, it was there. You must have seen. Apart from that, the government has also set up Yoga Certification Board to ensure there is yoga certified courses, yoga certified personnel, etc. Not just here, in other countries as well. Multiple cultural agreements have been signed. The government has said that they have more than 15 cultural agreements with different countries to enhance cultural diplomacy. The government is already running Incredible India tourism campaign so that the foreign tourists can come, they can enjoy Incredible India and then spread the word. There is also another scheme which is being run, Mera Gaon, Meri Dharohar. This was highlighted by the government that every village, it is going to now specifically showcase their dharohar, their speciality. The government has also started different tourist circuits. You know about the Ramayan circuit, the Buddhist circuit, all right? Different circuits have been started to enhance tourism. Nalanda University has been revived. This was replied by the government. Apart from this, there is a scheme for promoting ICCR projects which is already running. This was responded by the government. Parliamentary exchange program is also running to promote or to use democracy as a means of soft power. Parliamentarians from our country will visit different countries, and there is a parliamentary exchange program. Government also highlighted that they are running different conservation projects in other countries. For example, conservation of Angkor Wat in Cambodia, conservation of Ananda Temple in Myanmar, conservation of Wat Phao, it is in Laos. So different temples and its conservation efforts, India is helping others. There is another initiative which has been started by the government called as Samhita. Samhita initiative aims to protect Indic script, the ancient Indic scripts, collect and protect them. There is also one of the projects which is run by Ministry of Culture, Project Mosam. This is a cultural connect between India and the African continent. So these are the lists or the replies that have come from the government that we are doing these many things from recent times. In fact, yoga is one of the ideas which is being promoted extensively. If you look at the government's reply, you will see that India has signed 24 country to country MOUs for cooperation in homeopathy. They have signed 40 MOUs regarding different research, 15 MOUs regarding Ayush again, and they have set up multiple centers. If I'm not wrong, they have set up one of the Ayush Panchakarma Kendra in Cuba also, right? In Cuba. Apart from that, they have supported establishment of 39 Ayush information cells in different countries. We have also discussed on StudyIQ itself regarding the establishment of WHO GCTM, the Ayush Center in Jamnagar, Gujarat. This was also replied by the government. So different steps are being taken, but we need to understand we still are way behind in comparison to other countries in terms of the soft power projection. So we need to put in more and more efforts, and whatever recommendations have been given by the committee, they have to be accepted and fulfilled in letter and spirit going forward. So that is where we stand as of now. So government, the committee has highlighted lacunae, the government has responded with these many. All right. Right. Before we head out, there is a simple question for you to practice. Power is a key concept in conduct of relations between states, and the idea of power is expanding from hard power, economic and military power, to include the concept of soft power in recent decades. So in light of that particular statement, critically analyze the prospects of India's soft power. Do attempt this question. All right. That's the end of our discussion today. And if you have liked this discussion, you can always follow me on my social media handle @RahulSai222. Thank you again. Jai Hind.